BTS News Today. In the midst of the hustle and bustle of the lives of BTS members who are now undergoing military service, a shocking confession from Jimin suddenly shakes Jungkook and Taehyung's hearts. No one thought that the words that came out of his mouth would make his two best friends speechless. Can't believe what they're hearing. This is not just an ordinary phrase, but something that has been stored tightly in Jimin's heart until it exploded like a time bomb that could not be avoided. That day, the atmosphere in the room occupied by the members who were gathered felt so warm. Although they now lead a more disciplined life in the army, their togetherness remains a consolation. In that rare moment, Jimin suddenly stood in the middle of the room. He looked at Jungkook and Taehyung. His expression turned serious. It's not like it's always full of smiles and jokes. Jungkook, who was initially busy joking with Taehyung, suddenly stopped laughing. Taehyung, who was sitting next to him, also began to notice that there was something different in Jimin's gaze. Silence enveloped the room. The next few days felt so long, as if time stopped turning. "I've kept this for too long," Jimin said with a slightly trembling voice. "And I thought, this is the right time to say it." Jungkook swallowed. He looked at Jimin with question mark eyes. Taehyung was also silent, waiting for the continuation of the sentence that had just been said by his friend. Jimin took a deep breath, then exhaled slowly. "You know how precious our friendship is, don't you?" he continued. "I always appreciate every moment we pass together, from trainee to now. But there's one thing I always hide, something that might change the way you look at me." Jungkook and Taehyung exchanged glances. They began to feel a growing tension. Their minds began to be filled with possibilities. However, none of them could really guess what Jimin was going to say. "I am. All this time, I had such deep feelings," Jimin said quietly. "And this feeling is not something I can just ignore. I thought I could keep it, but it's getting harder and harder every day. I'm afraid if I don't say it now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Jungkook felt his heart beating faster. He could feel something big happening. Taehyung, who was usually full of witty expressions, now looked more serious than ever. They both knew that this was no ordinary conversation. Jimin looked down for a moment, then raised his face again with teary eyes. "I love you guys more than anything. You guys are the best friends I've ever had. But I have to be honest. I don't just love you as a friend. There's something deeper than that." The room felt so quiet. Jungkook was silent, and so was Taehyung. They don't know how to react. Jimin's words still echoed in their heads. This is something they did not expect at all. Jimin took a deep breath. "I don't expect you guys to immediately understand or even accept this easily. I just want you to know that this is a truth that I have kept for a long time. I no longer want to live in fear of my own feelings. I want to be honest, especially with you too." Jungkook finally opened his mouth, although his voice sounded hoarse. "Jimin, I don't know what to say. I just didn't expect it." Taehyung, who had been silent, finally spoke up. "Jimin, why didn't you tell us before? Do you think we won't understand?" Jimin shook his head. "That's not it, Taehyung. I just don't want to ruin what we already have. I'm afraid if I reveal it, everything will change. I don't want to lose you both." Jungkook looked at Jimin with sincerity. "You will never lose us, Jimin. No matter what happens, we're still friends. Nothing can change that." Taehyung nodded in agreement. "Yes, Jimin, we're always there for you. Nothing changes just because you express your feelings. In fact, we appreciate your honesty." The tears Jimin had been holding on to finally fell. He felt relieved, as if a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. She smiled between her tears. "Thank you. I'm really lucky to have you guys." In a meaningful silence, the three friends embrace each other. It was a moment they will never forget. A confession that at first seemed so scary to Jimin, it was a turning point in their relationship. A confession that proves that true friendship will never falter, only because of a truth that was finally revealed. In that day, Jimin learned that honesty is the most valuable thing. And Jungkook and Taehyung proved that their friendship is stronger than anything else. Nothing has changed, rather, everything has become more meaningful. In a world filled with stage glitters, spotlights, and to the cheers of fans, BTS has become an unwavering global icon. However, behind their fame and success, there are personal stories that are not always seen in front of the camera. One of them is the shocking confession of Park Jimin, who made two of his best friends, Jungkook and Kim Taehyung, stunned and unable to believe what they had just heard. The story begins in a small room where the three BTS members gather. After a long time, they spent apart due to the mandatory military service they had to undergo. Jimin, with a more serious expression than usual, sat between his two best friends. Jungkook and Taehyung, who were usually so carefree and full of jokes, feels something different this time. I have to say something, Jimin said in a low but firm voice. Taehyung raised his eyebrows, while Jungkook just looked at him with an expression full of question marks. They knew that Jimin was not an easy person to express his heart so clearly. There's something really important this time. I kept this for a long time. And I think it's time you found out, he continued. The atmosphere in the room instantly became more tense. Jungkook placed his glass on the table, preparing to listen carefully. While Taehyung, who usually speaks the most, this time he chose silence, waiting patiently for the words that would come out of his best friend's mouth. Jimin took a deep breath before continuing. I don't know where to start. But all this time, I feel like I've been hiding something that I should have shared with you guys a long time ago. I'm afraid if I say this, our relationship will change. But I can't keep pretending there's nothing. Jungkook and Taehyung exchanged glances. They don't know where this conversation will go, but they could feel that this was something very important to Jimin. Since the beginning of our journey together in BTS, I always felt that you two were the closest people to me. But behind all our togetherness, I keep such deep feelings. I'm afraid if I say this, I'll lose you. Jungkook frowned. Hyung, you mean? Jimin looked at them with eyes that began to glaze over. I always felt different. I have a lot of fear, a lot of doubt. And I'm afraid if I'm honest, everything will change. But I'm already tired of keeping everything alone. Taehyung finally spoke up. Jimin, whatever you say, we'll always be here for you. You know that, right? Jimin smiled faintly, but his eyes still implied a tension that had not completely disappeared. I know, Taehyung, and that's what makes this even harder, because I don't want to lose you. Jungkook held Jimin's hand. Hyung, just say it. We're here, listening to you. For a moment, the room was quiet. Jimin swallowed, then with a voice that almost vibrates, he uttered words that left Jungkook and Taehyung speechless. What they heard from Jimin was something they really didn't expect. Something that had been hidden behind Jimin's sweet smile and melodious voice on stage. Jungkook and Taehyung try to digest every word spoken by Jimin, but it is difficult to process everything at once. I know this is hard to believe, Jimin continued, seeing the surprised expression on the faces of his two best friends. But I can't keep it any longer. I want you to know the truth. Jungkook lowered his head, trying to understand Jimin's feelings. Taehyung, who has always been known as an empathetic person, trying to find the right words to respond to that confession. Jimin. I don't know what to say, Taehyung finally opened his voice. But one thing is certain, nothing will change between us. Jungkook nodded. Hyung, you are family to us. Whatever happens, we stay together. Jimin looked at them with teary eyes, then smiled in relief. I'm afraid to say this, but I'm relieved to finally be honest with you guys. Thanks for listening to me. The three friends then shared a hug,